LIMS admin, you can see that there is only one role available. Some other user, let's say Satish. Now you can see there are 4 roles available. So based on user, we can provide multiple roles to user. Some user can be an analyst as well as a supervisor. So that is a possibility in our application. Okay. Now once you log in, this thing is a dashboard and you can see it is a multi-page dashboard. So it can go on. This is configurable. That's one of the strength of our product, that when they log in, there are 2 important things. One is dashboard, which they can configure based on their interest. Second is alerts. Dashboard is a summary. Alert is activity pending for me to do. That is how it is. So these are the helpful tools for users in LIMS. It's all about traceability and a proper workflow. So when I log in, I should be able to see what is happening. I should be able to see what is pending for me to do. So that is how we help laboratories with the traceability of activities. That's the main goal of laboratory. Now you can see that there is a menu here and it is divided in 4 major parts. Master is something, it needs a preparation before LIMS is live. Okay. And there can be changes happening during the live also, but majoritarily we prepare everything in master before we go live. Transaction is a day-to-day work for users. Most of them, they will be using transaction. As I said, this dashboard is configurable and alerts are configurable. So we have an area for that where we can define the dashboards and alerts. So that is third part. And finally, we have built-in reports. So we have around 30-40 built-in reports here. As I said, LIMS is all about tracking the work and making sure that all the activities have a workflow. That is what LIMS is helping with laboratories. They can define the workflows, how the flow goes from sample registration till report. And there is a complete traceability using different reports and dashboard. That is the whole purpose. Now we will talk about the masters, right? So there is a user management. In the user management, they can create their own roles. As you saw, I was able to log in with admin user or lab technician, scientific officer, principal scientific officer. Different type of roles can be created by laboratories based on their practices. Some people say analyst, lab supervisor, lab manager, something like that. So they can create a role. For each role, they can assign these screens. Now you can see there are some 100 screens available, but not everyone is doing everything in the application. Each role has limited access. Probably only administrator will have access to all the screens. So when we create a role, we have a screen right here and we say what right should be given to this particular role. So you can see I am saying this lab technician will have sample storage, test master, sample point, chain of custody. So we give access to each screen based on the role. So when I log in with the different user, I see limited screens for that user based on this configuration. Now each screen, let's say I opened this unit of measurement, has some controls. So he can add, edit, delete, refresh, import, export. So we call this as control. So after creating a user role and giving rights to the screens, we can also give rights to the controls. What can be done within the screen? Can he add? Can he edit? Can he delete? This also can be controlled, and that is happening under control rights. So I can say for a specific screen, what we did is we created a role and we assigned the screen rights and control rights. So now when somebody logs in with that role, he will see the screens which are provided access with in this screen write and control write. They can only do these activities, not everything. So we control the access based on the usage for that particular role. Then we create different users. As I said, for accreditation or compliance, user traceability is must. So every user has to have his own user ID and password account. So we create users here. In the users, we have some interesting things like there is a signature file, there is a user profile. User profile is of course his picture. Signature file is very important. Now, user can embed electronic signature along with scanned signature stamp into the reports. That is the purpose we have kept this signature box here. Of course, there is also email. We may use it for sending the alerts. As I said, the alerts are displayed here. They can be also sent by emails. So people won't miss even if they don't log into the LIMS. That is the purpose, right? Apart from qualification, there are other fields like designation. So you can have designation field here, date joined. These are mostly I can say non-mandatory fields. Some of them are mandatory fields. So here we create users, and then for each user, as I said, I can assign the role or multiple roles also. Now we also have something very interesting called as deputy user. The purpose of deputy user typically is, let's say this user, when he is absent, all the tasks assigned to will be on hold. So to avoid that, we have something called as deputy user. So if I add a deputy user here, if this user is marked as absent, or you can say inactive, if we mark him as inactive, then automatically the deputy user can take over the jobs. The jobs will be visible to him and he can complete the jobs. That is the use of deputy user. This is another very strong feature we have, and I have seen not many LIMS companies come up with the concept of deputy user. They have to reschedule or do something like that. Here we have deputy user. So job is automatically transferred to the deputy user. Nothing is stopped. That's how. Then under the user management itself, we have something called as audit trail. And this is a big boon for all the pharma companies, I would say. Anything and everything happening in the application is recorded here all the time. Now we just have logged in and we have not added, edited, deleted anything. So it is showing only one line. If I change the date, of course, it will show me more records. So let's say from yesterday, let's see what has happened. There is nothing. I think this application I have not probably opened for a few days. So nothing is there. Now I will have a lot of record. So logged in, logged out. You can see session timeout also recorded. That is, somebody logged in and left the application open for some time, idle, and it logged automatically. All the activities are recorded, and this is very important for especially the life science customer like pharma manufacturers, pharma researchers. This is very, very important. USFDA will always look whether your application has audit trail or not. So they will always ask this question, right? So this is about user management. Then we have something called as organization. Here we create an organizational skeleton of the laboratory, like there is a quality control department. Within quality control, there is a chemical lab and micro lab. Within each lab, there are multiple sections. Like under chemical, there is a chromatography and wet analysis. And finally, for the last layer, we add users. The purpose is restricting the testing activities based on the section partition. So these users will see the test belonging to section chromatography. Some others will see tests belonging to wet analysis. This is how we can configure and make sure the user logged in will see what is there pending for his area alone. He doesn't have to see everything while working on the transactions. If he wants to see everything, there is a way. We have a registration screen, which we keep it open for all people, just as a view only skeleton. They can see everything, but while working, they can work only on the activities pending for their area. That's how it works, right? So that is the use of department. Apart from department, we have also nested flow mapping. Now this is people in a section. When they complete their work, it goes to their supervisor. When that is happening, we can dictate who is reporting to whom. That is what is happening in the nested workflow. So I'm saying scientific officer Satish is reported by specific users. Let me check. So here I am saying the analyst Satish is reporting to scientific officer Satish. This is how the nested mapping works. So even though there are 10 users in a lab, they can be reporting to different supervisors and their work automatically goes to the respective supervisor. That's how we have something called as a configuration here under the first of all, role. You can create a lab technician, lab attender, lab supervisor, lab manager. These are the roles. You can create these roles and then you can create the hierarchy under the configurations. We have something called as template master. Here is where we define the levels. So here I have defined only one level. You could have multiple levels also defined. That is also possible. Okay, so it is possible. You can have 3 layers, 4 layers. In fact, you can also have different structure for different requirement. Let's say finished product needs 4 layers. Raw material needs 5 layers. That is also possible. We can configure it in that way also, right? Then once this user definition is over and organization is created, then we start with some other masters. So we have different masters. Some of them are important, so we'll talk about it. Unit of measurement. All the units associated with the result parameter, all the units associated with the consumption of reagent standards is defined here as a single master. And then from here it is used in other places. Similarly, we have something called as storage condition and storage location. So when they store the sample in specific conditions in a specific location, then we can use this as masters. So here you can see I created location as R301 C1 S2 R2. It indicates that it is in a room 301, first cupboard, second shelf, third rack. So we create it in this fashion so that they can trace the exact location where the sample or consumable is kept. So that is the use of locations, right? Then we have contacts. Contacts is useful in different ways. For a commercial lab, client is important. So they can maintain all their clients who are sending these samples. For a manufacturing industry, supplier and manufacturers are important. They keep record of the supplier of raw material, supplier of chemical reagent, manufacturers of instruments. So that is all maintained in these masters. These are simple masters. Let's say client. If you see client, you can simply add a client here. Say add, give the details here. And then once you add a client, we also have a site for that. That means one client can have multiple sites also. One in city A, another in city B. So you can add multiple sites. And for each site, you can add contact details also. The purpose is there is a handy information. If I need to contact a client, I can have all the contact details inside LIMS. And we can also have email for the contact. We can send automatic reports also to the client email automatically. That is also possible. Similarly, like client, we have supplier details where we can have suppliers contacts, and again the same architecture for manufacturers also. Manufacturer site and contacts for manufacturer site. So this also is maintained in the LIMS properly and associated respectively. Like clients can be associated with samples, manufacturer and supplier can be associated with instrument record, material record. So that is the association we maintain. We have configurations, we can talk about it. One of them I talked as you can have tree definition for, let's say, sample approval. I will check routine sample. So here I am saying there is only after lab technician, the sample goes to scientific officer, and when scientific officer reviews it, it goes to principal scientific officer. These are role names. They are created by customer. So you may call it lab technician, scientific officer, or lab technician, lab supervisor, lab manager. Anything can be named based on the customer requirements. So they create roles and define the hierarchy of approvals. We have two different major approvals here. One is sample approval, another is test group approval. Call it test group approval. Test group is defining product specifications. We will look into it. Right. So they can define the configuration here. They can define electronic signature. This is also a nice feature. That is, when I go to supplier, you can see blacklist supplier, approval supplier has a tick box here. That means when I blacklist the supplier, it will prompt me the electronic signature box. I have to type in password and remarks before completing this activity. So for all the critical activities, we can enable electronic signature. That is what is happening here. Then you asked, can we set the timeout and all these things? So we have a password policy here, and this is where you have different options available. So here you can see I am saying failed password attempt 9 is given. So if I type the password wrong 9 times, it will lock that particular account. Expiry policy, I can say expire the password 30 days. So it will force the user to create new password after 30 days. Okay, alert days. Alert days is typically saying that you can have reminder for changing the password automatically. Then you can also create complex conditions like the password should be at least having 3 numbers, at least having X number of lower characters, upper characters. So these definitions are going in the password policy. Then after this, we have this sample test management test group to review together. Sample is typically an area where we define all the products analyzed in our laboratory. So here I have created an example of paracetamol and environmental samples. In this screen, typically we are adding all the products which are being analyzed in our laboratory. So customer can simply say add and give the product name here and add the products. So they can add any number of products they are handling in the laboratory. Now, when we add the product, the next thing is what kind of testing is performed, right? So we have something called as test master. Here they add all the tests required to be conducted in the organization. Let me just deselect these so that I can see all the different tests. So here I have created some simple examples like pH of the water or liquid, Carl Fisher for water content by KF, assay could be by HPLC, assay could be by GC. So all these tests can be created here. While creating test, what do we capture as a result is defined as parameter. So if you see pH, the parameter is of course of just a pH. If I see assay, the parameter could be assay itself. You could also have complex tests also where final results can be calculated using formula. Even that is possible. So under the parameter, you have something called as formula also. So I may say parameter A multiplied by parameter B divided by 100 is my result for a specific parameter. So you can define the
Okay.
formulas also. So there is a complex definition of formula with built-in operators. All these are operators are available, plus, minus,
Okay.
percentage, greater than, less than, all that is there. We also have some built-in functions like average, standard deviation, log to the power of 10, pi, power to the x. All the formulas are also built in. So they can define also a complex formula to calculate a result. That is also possible. Also
Okay.
in the parameter definition, we have three different types. Okay, just for your information: numeric, predefined, and character. So numeric
Okay.
is we are expecting a result as a number value. Predefined is typically a predefined list of values like acceptable, not acceptable, pass, fail, uh, present, absent. These kind of values can be given under predefined. And the third
Okay.
type is character. Character in the sense they can type some free text into the result area, like appearance. Appearance can be a free text. So they can say uh, clear, colorless, liquid, no particles,
Okay.
suspended particles. This kind of result is character. And the
Okay.
last type is attachment, that is they can attach additional file as a result. Chromatogram, picture, this can be also one type of result. So we have number, predefined, character, and attachment. Can define the tests here in this fashion. While defining the test, they may also need to identify typical methods used along with the test. So we have a method master here. They can create method like this: KFWN01, ATS, LC01. These are the different methods laboratories use. So they can create methods and associate it with the test master. They can also ultimately create a master price list. Yearly master price list also can be created in this fashion, and this will allow them to track the expenditure or cost when it comes to uh, manufacturing unit. And if it is a commercial lab, they can use this pricing in the invoice reporting, something like that. You maintain the cost of the test, and this is a yearly list. You can see price list for this year. When this is over,
Okay.
and if there is a change, I can create a new version of this price list and I can
Okay.
amend the cost and approve it. So next time the new cost will be applicable. So that is how it works. So we created a product and we created the tests, all the tests. Now we have something called as test group or specification master. Here what we do is we typically group the test required for a specific product. Let's say paracetamol. When I
Okay.
say paracetamol, I am saying paracetamol would need assay and water content. There are hundreds of tests, but this product needs these tests. That's how we define it. So in the
Okay.
test group, we are saying for this product, these are the tests required, and we are also defining the limits here. Limits in the say, I am saying here 98 max minimum is the result required for passing this particular product. So we can
Okay.
define minimum and maximum limit for each parameter in this particular screen for each
Okay.
test for each product. So we call it as multi-level specification. That is, here you can see for paracetamol, I have defined two different specifications based on different requirement. Maybe different grade has a different specification, different product strength has a different specification, different country allows you to define different specification. So
Okay.
based on that, one product can have multiple specifications also. So that is what we are doing here. In the specification, for a particular product, we are saying what are the tests required and what is the specification limit to approve or reject that particular sample. That is all happening here. This grows through review and approval process. So somebody will define it, then he will mark it as completed. Other person will review it and some other person will approve it. And that is what we saw in the workflow definition here. Here we define who reviews and who approves. So in this case, I am just keeping one level, but if the customer needs more than one level, that is also possible. So then somebody will draft, somebody will review, somebody will approve the specification. Once approved, we can start with sample registration. Okay, so let me just open the instrument first. In this area, we are maintaining all the different instruments used by organization. So here this is example of Carl Fisher being used. You can add Carl Fisher, balance, HPLC, GC, all different instruments used by customer are added here. For an industry, especially the compliant industry, it is also important to know whether the instrument is calibrated on different frequencies or not. So we have a calibration tab here. They can keep record of calibrations. We also have two additional tabs for validation. Usually this happens first time, but some customers also do validation at frequency. So they can maintain the validation record here. They can also maintain the maintenance record of instrument. And you can see there is a status also here, maintained. If the instrument goes down, and if I mark this as under maintenance, then this instrument will not be available for usage during testing. Similarly, if the instrument is due for calibration, that is under calibration, again this instrument will not be also available for usage because only calibrated instruments can be used. That's how we control. Okay. This is also a compliance requirement. Instrument needs calibration. It must be calibrated on due dates. Otherwise, it cannot be used. So that is also one of the compliance requirement. Also the ISO 17025 requirement. Basically, calibration is definable. They can define the frequency and it will alert them that this instrument is due for calibration. They can see it in the alerts that these are the list of instruments due for calibration today morning. After instruments, we will talk about quickly the inventory and material management. See, laboratory, when they are performing analysis, they are also using a lot of different chemicals, reagents, solvents, right? So all that can be documented here, documented with some special features like expiries. So they can actually maintain the details, the lot number, batch number, and also they can maintain the expiry dates so that when it expires, they cannot use it and they will get an alert to discard it. Okay. And also they are maintaining the quantities. So let's say 1000 ml. So when I maintain it and start consuming, I can note down how much was purchased, how much is consumed, how much is left. And also we have something called as reorder level when we create a material. So based on this value, it can also give an alert that you are about to finish with this material, please purchase. They can get an alert. So reorder level alert is also very important feature. Then user will use their own maybe ERP or some other applications. Somebody is using a ERP and he wants to do some information exchange between LIMS and ERP. We can build that bridge between these systems. Of course, it is a configuration work and there is a extra man hour and costing is involved. But yes, we have done the ERP integration in our experience. It is possible. After discussing this material, now we are ready to go for transaction, but let's talk about competence we asked. So here we can define different techniques. These techniques are associated with the type of instruments, and then we can create the trainings. Here we can create the trainings. So we can say add training. We define the technique on which the training is being conducted. Then we can define something like training topic details, where it is happening, the date and time. OK. And after this, what we do is we assign the participants to the training. That is the users, LIMS users into the training. Once the training is conducted, we mark it as completed. And then we go to the training update screen. And in the training update screen, we actually mark the participants as competent or not competent. OK. And based on this, the job allocation will identify the users who are competent for the given test. That's how it works. We control it based on the techniques, because there are more than one techniques used in the laboratory. Let's say for each test, there is one different technique. So we monitor the job allocation based on techniques. So there are multiple techniques added, trainings are conducted, and when we give the job allocation screen, it validates whether for this technique, this user is appropriate or not. That's how we validate it. We don't consider degree or the job role. No, it is all about the technique. So once the training is completed, then it starts behaving in the job allocation to validate the respective user. It checks this matrix of training and allows you to select the user, which we will see now. We will now go through the transaction flow. OK. Of course, there is this master also. This is typically used by the R&D facilities, not by manufacturing, because R&Ds work on projects, right? So typically they will create a project and all the sample submission will happen based on the project and it will be monitored. So when we create a project, we also have something called as project members. So for a specific project, we define a team and only these team members will see the transactions happening for this project. That's how it works. Nobody else will be seeing the information from other projects unless and until they are a member of that team. And one person can be part of more than one project. It depends on the permutation and combination we create, right? And then to monitor what is happening under a specific project, we have a project. So here for a selected, you can see all the samples available for the selected projects. So there is a project view details, which gives them a summary of the project activities. That is what is happening here. Transaction has registration, job allocation, result entry done by lab technician, and review and approval. OK. Now this job allocation, we have kept it as a optional thing. If it is marked as required, it becomes mandatory. If it is not marked as required, then the analyst will see the jobs available in their lab. They can say, I will do this, accept the job and start working. So it depends on the organization, whether they do job allocation or they allow analysts to select the job and proceed. Based on that, we can do the configurations. It is configurable. But in this case, for the demo, I have kept job allocation as. What I will do now is I will generate one sample, pre-register one sample. When I select the product sample, it automatically updates the specification defined. I can select manufacturer and supplier, but these are optional, so I will not select them. Wherever I see a star, these are mandatory features. So I'm saying dispose it of dosage, quantity received, let's say 200 grams of sample received. And it is top priority or normal priority. Then batch number, lot number. This is also nice feature, deadline. So I can say the result should go in 5 days. If there is delay, I can send an alert by email or display the alert. These are the small features, but very useful features. You also have see this import button. We have made this facility also available. Import is typically, let's say we have bulk samples, 10 samples, 15 samples. So we can use this import feature with the Excel. We can import all the 10 samples in one go. That is also possible. So I submitted one sample. You see this is blank here. This is analytical reference number or laboratory number. It is yet blank because we just pre-registered a sample. At this stage, I can go back, say edit, do some changes. And once I am happy, then I decide that yes, I can start working on it. But I have created one sample. I will create a sub sample for it. That is also possible. Part 1 of the sample, part 2 of out of 200 grams, 50 grams, I can create 2 subsamples. For each subsample, I will say what test to be conducted. So here I am saying I want to conduct assay and water content. Now remember, we had 5 or 6 different tests added, but doing only 2 because in the test group we said if the product is paracetamol, these are the tests I am expecting. So it shows me the applicable test for selected products. Let me conduct assay and water content. I submit it. Now after submitting these tests are available here. I can see them. If everything looks good, now I will say register, that is start working on this sample. Okay, it says there is some information to be reviewed before you can really register. See this message. That means one of the tests needs to be marked with some pre-information before I start working. I think it is associated with a test assay. Let me try that. Additional info. It is all configurable. I have configured that before I start assay, I need to check something. So it is asking me questions. Have you purged your column? Have you prepared the reagent required for test? I can say yes, all good. And now I can register the sample. So this is configurable. If additional information is attached, it will become mandatory. If it is not attached, it will not become mandatory. In this case, for one test, I assigned it. For the other test, I have not assigned anything. See, this test has nothing. If I click additional info, no additional information required, right? It is all configurable. After configuring this, completing this additional information, I will say register. And now this sample is going for job allocation, result entry and approval. And now you can see there is a number generated. This is a unique number or a lifetime reference number for this particular product, this particular batch. You see there are some other options also available here. People want to keep track of who is doing the sampling. Then they have sampled by. There is a cancel or reject. If the sample collected is not good, they can reject it. If the sample is not good, but we are expecting the customer to send the person who send the sample to give the new sample, we can also do quarantine. Quarantine is park the sample now. I will register it later. So these options are available, right?
Okay.
In some commercial cases, what happens is somebody registers 10 samples, then he gives the list to the person to collect these samples. For that we have, so export to Excel can be used for that. I can register 10 sample, export the list to Excel, and we can give it to a person who can collect it. So these features are available here. Copy is also nice feature. Let's say we have similar 10 samples. I can say copy this sample, duplicate it with new number. That is also possible. We registered this sample now, right? With the two tests. We said paracetamol is registered and we need to do water content and assay. This is how we registered the sample. Now the sample moves to the next level. From this to it comes to the job allocation screen. And now you can see there is one sample 16 now split into two sections. It has duplicated because the testing is happening in different areas. One test is happening in chromatography area. Another test is happening in wet analysis area. So now this splits and goes to two different individuals, right? Now, of course, I have assigned it to one single user, so it is appearing to me. In real world, this will be seen by user A, this will be seen by user B, because they are representing their own sections. Chromatography, the supervisor is different. Wet analysis, the supervisor is different. So it splits and moves into two different records to two different users. But since I am handling both of them, I can do work for both of them. So let me find this sample here. Of course, has two records, and I will say for wet analysis, I received it in lab. Mark it as received, and then go inside the test and say assign it to some user. So I will do assign job to user. Now you can see there is only one user available here. So when I say I'm doing a Carl-Fisher testing, only this user can do it. So I will say assign it to Satish Patil. Now I will go back to the test number 2. When I say assay and say received it in my lab, this is a different lab now, chromatography lab. He received it. When he goes and says assign the job for assay, now you can see I have two different users available, lab technician and Satish, because these two users are competent to do this test. But I will still select the same user now so that I can do the result entry together. I will also say not applicable. So now both tests are assigned to user called as Satish. Now hereafter only they will see it. If I go to my job allocation as a LIMS admin user, this is empty. Nothing is there, right? So now I have to log in as user Satish, this user, because this is what this user is assigned with tests. When I log in as user Satish, of course, I chose the wrong role, admin. Now the work is with the user as role lab technician. So I should be lab technician now. So when I'm lab technician as Satish, each role will have a different dashboard. It is configurable. Dashboard gives only summary. They actually see it in the alerts here. In the alerts, I have not configured anything, but they should see here a line saying 2 tests are pending. Not configured it, but it is in the alerts. They can see what is pending for me to complete analysis, what is pending for me to review, what is pending for me to approve, what instrument for calibration. All this is under the alerts. but I have not configured it, so it is not showing anything. So when I log in as analyst and go to my jobs, now you can see there is a sample 16 and it has test assay and test water content. Both are pending for me. Okay, so I go to the test. I see both tests are available for me. Now I can give one more timestamp saying accepted the test. When I say accept, now it is available in the result entry. So now I can enter the results for them. Of course, as I said, you can do the result entry manually, or also you can do the result entry using instrument interfacing. Both are possible, but there is again a timestamp here required now. After seeing the test in the result entry, I will mark as start the test now, test initiation. These timestamps can be very useful while tracking the speed of the work or the time taken to do each step of the work. All these timestamps very useful in monitoring the time taken for each stage. So now I said start the test. So what I can do is I can go to the assay test and say enter the results. 98.55. I did 89.55 assay. If I would have done 98.55, it would have said fail here instead of pass, because my maximum limit is 98. So if I enter something as 98, it will say fail. Now I entered 89, so it is pass. Now the other test, I can also do the automatic result entry. Instead of entering the result here, see it is empty now. I can do the automatic result entry also. For that, what I have to do is I have to make sure this batch number is mentioned properly, number 16, and use now electronic lab notebook and do that. Maybe quickly I can show you that also, just for idea. ELN, electronic lab notebook. I'll just see if it is configured. If it is configured, maybe we can still capture the results automatically. So here I am saying lab technician will see this usually. See now this sample which is generated in LIMS has sent the record here for processing the order. So I'll say process order. So here I will decide which sheet to use. Of course, here also we have defined different other manual fields and instrument fields. So this is date when I'm processing it in the instrument. So this date is there. Now you can see this weight is manual entry. And this water content we can capture from instrument automatically. For that, what I have to do now is I have to send the data to instrument folder. So what I will do, I have already the files here. There are three values expected. See, 1, 2, 3, 3 replicates. OK, so I have to have 3 files. So I will say this is sample number 16 file 1, sample number 16 file 2, sample number 16 file 3. So when the files are ready, what we now have to do is in the STMS we have to indicate which instrument I am going to use and for which sample. So basically in the STMS we lock the order to send the results. So I log in with the STMS and I select which instrument I am going to use and for which sample. I have something called as lock screen. So here I say I want to use the Carl Fisher instrument and I want to do it for sample number 16. I will have to find that sample number 16. Is it available here? Yes, sample number 16. So here what I'm saying is use this instrument and I am sending the results for this particular sample in the LIMS. Water content sample number 16. This is the sample I want to capture results for. So I am locking this particular order now. And when I lock that and when I send the data from instrument, it automatically captures and parses it to the ELN sheet. So I will say now send this result. So what I am doing is I am pushing the results in a instrument folder which is being monitored for results. I have configured it in this particular path. So when I push the results here, it is being monitored, and when the results are available, if I refresh here now, it picks the file automatically and send the results to ELN sheet. So if I go to ELN sheet, you can see this result is captured. But I need 2 more results from the instrument. So I will send file number 2 also to the instrument folder. Send the file 2, and when I go back in ELN and wait here for let's say 2-3 seconds, it will pull the second results also. Similarly, I will push the result number 3. I push the third result as well. So in the sheet, after a couple of seconds, the result will be captured automatically from the instrument in this fashion. This is my final result. I am using some calculation here. I am taking the average of this. So once I am happy, I can say save this sheet and send the results to LIMS. So when I click on this, it asks me a user ID password confirmation. From here, the results are sent to the please complete before sending. So I have to complete the work and now send it to LIMS. Sent to LIMS successfully. So when I come back to LIMS here now for this particular test, water content, you can see this result is here automatically sent. So the result captured here in the average 3.9 is passed to LIMS automatically. Capturing the result, we complete the tests. Now the next stage is based on the approval configuration. The respective user has to review and approve it. So now I will log in with the next user who is reviewer and approver. In this case, what I have done is I have kept this user itself as a multi-role user. So I will simply change the role and say now log in as scientific officer, the next level, and go to the screen called as approval screen. OK. In the result entry, there are few other things which we could have done. Sample is available with me, which is completed by the analyst. While completing the analyst could have done some other things. I will talk here in this screen also. I'll tell you what he could have done. He could have captured the not only the results, he could have added the material reagent standard used, the instrument used, and also the miscellaneous task performed. All that he could have added. Apart from that, he could have also attached some additional attachment like chromatograms, pictures. The result sheet, the chromatograms, the pictures in some cases like microscope will capture some pictures as a result. All that could have been passed. Looking at all this information consolidated, I can take a decision what to do. So I can say I review it. There are two other options also. I can recommend a retest, recommend a recalculation. Retest and recalculation we will talk in the next approval level. So I am saying I am okay with it. All okay. Electronically signed. And now it goes to the level 2, final approver. Okay. They can check additional tasks performed and also all the attachment. They can check everything and then take a consolidated decision looking at all the information provided by analyst. Okay. Even the next role, the final authority, principal scientific officer, he can also see. Let me go back to this user or as an analyst. Let me go back to the scientific officer. While doing this review, he could have also commented what is his observation in the comment area. Let me quickly check that also for you. So in there is a comment tab, you see. I can also put my observations. What I observed during my review, I can put as a comment also. That is also possible. I can say all tests and very too bad. Attachments are satisfactory. I could have done this also. I can also comment whatever my observation is and then pass it on. So now I go to the last level of approval, change role, principal scientific officer. Again, he uses the same screen, but in his authority. After review, the samples are available for him to approve. You can see the status is now reviewed. Review is the analyst completed it. The scientific officer reviewed it. Now it is on my desk for approval. So in the last level of approval, he will see the samples, he will see the comments passed on, see these all tests and attachments are satisfactory. He checks the comments and then he goes to the tests and takes a decision. Now this time I will just brief you what are the options available quickly. If everything looks good, I can say approve. If I see a typo mistake, instead of 7.5, I typed 75. Like previously you saw, instead of 98, I typed 89. If I observe something like that, I can say recalculate. That means it goes back to the analyst for correcting the records. Okay. And there is also option called as retest. That means everything is not looking good. I don't trust these test results. Do it again. So I can also say retest. In the retest, original results are frozen. They are locked. New record is added for the same test and they perform the test from the beginning completely. Already generated result sheet remains as retest status. New is created and then after the retesting, the final authority will decide what to do with the retest, whether approve that also and say we conducted it twice and send all the results, or cancel the previous one and only report the last one. All options are available. So either they can, the old record they can cancel, or they can send old record also along with the new record. All are possible. So now we will approve it. Once finally approved, now we can say release it and do the final report generation. So I go back to the sample here and say release it. So now you can report it. Whoever wants the report, it can be reported. And of course, these reports are also certificate of analysis are also designed by us. So now I can say generate certificate of analysis, and there is sample wise, test wise, client wise. All these options are available. Sample wise in the sense One sample, all the tests. Test wise will allow you to select multiple sample for a single test. Client wise will allow you to select multiple samples for a specific customer. For now, let's use sample wise. I will give some remarks. Submit. So now the report is generated, and now I can click on this. It is a test wise report, of course. Only assay is the part of this. The second test is not selected. So it generates a report. You can see in the report, we can add headers, footers, logos, whatever they want, the core information of sample. And you can see these signatures here. This is embedded. This can also be automatically embedded based on who reviewed and who approved. Of course, this time I did everything as a Satish user Satish. So same signature is appearing. If I use different users, it will insert different signatures here automatically. And you see the last comment I gave, report is verified and prepared, is automatically inserted in the report. So these are all the features. Reports in our LIMS is rather a configurable area. The way we implement LIMS is we understand the reporting requirements of customer, because every time when we do the implementation, we have to touch the report at least for the header and footer. We have to add their logo. We have to add the report name, company name. So every time we deploy LIMS, we definitely have to work on the reports. So we study the report requirement and we design these reports and implement. That apart, customer, if they have the IT knowledge, they can create their own reports also and add it to the system. For that, we have given one area for uploading new reports also. That is also, we have given a screen for that. We call it as report configuration in this design report configuration. So here they can add their own reports also, add report. That is also possible. So we configure their reports in the initial phase, but later they can modify report. Later they can add new report. That is also possible.